Hi guys, Blake and Matt from Footbase at Koruke, and we're back on the boot battle game, testing Nike's Mercurial Superfly 5 Floodlights Edition versus adidas Messi 16.1 Space Dust Edition. Now these two boots are held on by the two best footballers in the world, Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. The Superfly 5 is marketed for wingers and forwards, so pacey players like Sanchez, Dybala, Martial and Payet are the other players that are going to headline the Superfly 5, whereas the Messi 16.1 is the only signature Adidas boot in their collection and is only going to be worn by Leo Messi himself.
So you're at the point of deciding whether to go for the Superfly 5 or the Messi 16.1, and you want to know the sizing. Well, the good thing is they both do fit true to size. I wore my UK 10.5 for both pairs of boots, and that was perfect for me. That's actually the size that I would go for in the future. Now, talking about fit, this is where there's a little bit different. The Superfly 5 is a lot more narrow in the midfoot and the toe box compared to the Messi 16.1, which does offer a little bit more width in that midfoot and also in the toe box. So if you do have wider feet, then the Messi 16.1 will be the boot to go for. So guys, Lovell Soccer were kindly enough to send us both the Messi 16.1 and also Superfly 5. Now if you do want a pair of boots like these, then go onto our website and use our 10% discount code using Black Orange to get yourself 10% off from Lovell Soccer. Now if you do buy these boots or you're interested too, then what you're going to want to know is how long they actually take to break in. Now the Messi 16.1 is going to take a little bit less time to break in compared to the Superfly 5 because the agility in the upper is naturally a bit softer than that speed rib of the Superfly 5. Now actually talking about the feel of the upper, and the Messi 16.1 is incredibly soft straight out of the box. It really is next level, and bringing in the Superfly 5 we can just see it is a little bit more rigid and structured compared to that Messi 16.1 because of that speed rib upper.
So if we compare the two uppers on the Mercurial Superfly and on the Messi 16.1, agility in it is what we see on the Messi 16.1 from heel to toe. Very soft, very high quality. I'm a big fan. And on the Mercurial Superfly we have that new speed rib design on both sides of the boot. Really makes the upper slightly thicker than what we saw on the Superfly 4, but overall both offer a very barefoot touch on the ball, slightly more stiff and thicker on the Mercurial Superfly than what we see on the Messi 16.1 with the agility in the upper.
So one of the more interesting features to look at is actually inside of each boot. Now the Superfly 5, to keep it so barefoot, what Nike have done is they've lined it with a very thin synthetic skin, and that is just there to create a very barefoot feeling within the boot. Now where the adidas Messi 16.1 differs from the Superfly 5 is that internally it actually has some soft synthetic padding, which is there to create more of a cushion dampening effect when you do touch and strike the ball. So with the Superfly 5 and Messi 16.1, showing some differences in terms of the upper and the sole plate. The biggest difference is of course the Superfly 5 does have that mid-cut dynamic fit collar, however the Messi 16.1 is much more traditional through its low-cut silhouette.
Now as these two boots are worn by wingers and forwards, the sole plates are a massive talking point with these two boots. On the Superfly we have that new contoured chassis, 40% lighter than the carbon fiber sole plate seen on the Superfly 4. Very responsive, it mirrors the shape of your foot. A very responsive and aggressive stud system on the Superfly 5 as well with the chevron studs. And on the Messi 16.1 we see a sprint frame design, quite flexible straight out of the box. And we also see triangular studs. Overall, both sole plates are very responsive and aggressive. The Superfly is probably the slightly more responsive over the Messi 16.1. Now onto the Messi 16.1, it's not as technologically rich as the Superfly 5. It has that mono tongue, which is a burrito style tongue. It's designed to lock down your midfoot in place as well as provide a really clean and uniform striking surface, much like the Pure Cut lace cover on the PureAgility. But overall, in terms of responsiveness, the Superfly 5 reigns supreme. We've got speed ribs, we've got flywire, we've also got that contoured sole plate locking down your foot in place, whereas the Messi 16.1 will be the lesser responsive boot out of the two.
So the most important feature of this boot battle, but also the most difficult in my opinion, is the actual performance of both boots and which boot actually tops it in terms of performance. Now the Messi 16.1 gets my vote with a better upper compared to the two. I do like the speed ribs of the Superfly 5, but the new agility knit of the Messi 16.1 really is one of the best out there. And if I wasn't so hung up on my finished boots of the Hype Venom, the Messi 16.1 would be a pair of boots and now I'd personally buy it. Now where the Superfly 5 comes into its own across the entire boot market is that new contoured sole plate and also stud configuration. So if we could create a boot with that Messi 16.1 upper but a Superfly 5 sole plate, now that is the perfect boot for me.
Now if we get onto the subject of lacing systems, the Superfly 5 has a central lacing system really designed to provide a uniform lacing region to further lock down your foot to the shoe, and the Messi 16.1 has a slightly off-center lacing system, so an enlarged instep area for a larger ball striking surface. Great for club level players that like to shoot often.
Now the interesting thing to look at is the actual weight of them. Now the Superfly 5 comes in at 217 grams, which is 7.6 ounces, but the Messi 16.1 is just a little bit lighter at 210 grams, 7.4 ounces, and that is most probably due to it not actually feature a collar like on the Dynamic Fit Superfly 5. So looking at the overall pros of the Superfly 5, now what you're going to get from the boot is going to be incredibly highly responsive because it does have that speed rib upper and also the fly wire connecting the sole plate into that lacing system. It's also going to be incredibly barefoot because the upper is still thin, so in terms of getting a really barefoot feel on the ball, you're definitely going to get that. And of course the traction is going to be incredibly high because it has the chevron shaped stud configuration, which gives you a lot of traction, and again it's going to be lightweight. So whereas the Superfly 5 got top marks in specific areas, the Messi 16.1 is much more versatile, and that is a huge pro of the Adidas boot. It's a good all-rounder, it's got a great upper, it's very lightweight, it's going to be a good fit for most foot types, and it does give you some nice performance enhancements too.
Now if we get into cons of both boots, the worst thing about the Mercurial Superfly 5 to me is the Dynamic Fit collar, which is not really a feature needed on a football boot. You can always go for the Vapor 11 if you want that traditional low cut design. Of course it's a very narrow fit. The upper is very thin as well, and you also have that heel pressure you did experience in the Superfly 4 as well. But overall, the Superfly 5 is one of the most responsive boots on the market, and arguably the most responsive boot on the market. Now if we get onto cons for the Messi 16.1, the mono tongue provides a very clean and uniform striking surface, but it doesn't really lock down your foot as well as the Mercurial Superfly 5 does. Yes, it is responsive, but not as responsive as the Superfly 5. The stud configuration on the Messi 16.1 uses that Messi Gamba track system seen on the Messi 15.1. Not really the best in terms of agility and responsiveness. The Superfly 5's chevron stud system is the much more responsive stud system. Now comfort wise, this is always a touchy subject with football boots. The Messi 16.1 won't be the most comfortable boot out there. You've always got the leather options of the X16 and A16 options to think about as well. So in terms of design, the Mercurial Superfly 5 has that Floodlights edition, which has a Purple Dynasty, Vivid Purple Bright Citrus colorway, very modern and very bold colorway, and the Space Dust Messi 16.1 has a dark grey, silver metallic solar green colorway. Quite uniquely, the solar green glows in the dark. So both of these colorways, the Superfly 5 and the Messi 16.1, have very bold colorways for the winter months. So which boot is actually better, the Messi 16.1 or the Mercurial Superfly 5? Please vote in our poll card with which boot you would choose. Personally, I would go for the Messi 16.1. Which boot would you go for?
Well, I don't actually think it's a decision of which boot is better, but which boot is for you. Now, the boot that I'd personally go for is the Messi 16.1 because the upper is just that good. It's very similar to the Hype Venom finish, which I'm wearing at the moment. If there was one thing about the Superfly which I would change to make it onto the Messi, is that sole plate. It is literally top drawer. So that's the comparison that I'd make. The upper of the Messi is top level, and the sole plate of the Superfly is the best around.
So guys, please comment in the section below with which boot you would choose, the Messi 16.1 or the PureAgility or the Mercurial Superfly 5 or Vapor 11. Thank you very much for watching, and as always,
we'll see you next time.